I never expected to witness a heartbreaking confrontation that changed everything. I will never forget the day it all fell apart. The air felt thick, like a storm was brewing just under the surface. I stood there, trembling, my heart racing like a wild animal trying to escape. The whispers around me were like static, a hum that filled my ears but failed to register the impending disaster. I could see the tension in every drawn face, in the clenched fists, and in the way people shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting around as if searching for an exit. That was the moment I first spotted him. Tom, my brother, was a beacon of calm in that chaos, but even he couldn't hold back the darkness creeping in. His hands were trembling, his eyes wide, as he faced a figure I could barely make out. It was like watching a flickering film where each second stretched into eternity. I felt the heat from the crowd, a collective breath held tight, every heartbeat synced to the charged atmosphere. Moments before, laughter echoed from nearby, a cruel reminder of normalcy. I had just been talking to my best friend, Lucy, about our plans for summer, and how we would escape everything that weighed us down. Little did I know, our world was about to crumble, that laughter would become a distant memory of a sanctuary we would never find again. Tom's voice broke through the static, strained and desperate. "You don't know what you're doing." The words hung in the air, heavy with raw emotion, each syllable a plea that pierced through me. I could feel my chest tighten, a lump forming in my throat. There was an edge in the air, a thick tension that felt like a taut wire ready to snap. The figure stepped closer, shadows swirling around him, and I felt bile rise in my throat. His face was hidden, but I sensed a dangerous smirk lurking, a promise of chaos. The crowd's murmurs shifted from curiosity to alarm. My pulse quickened as I caught snippets of their whispers. "This isn't right, and where's the police?" They were terrified, just like me. My mind raced, desperately searching for clarity amid the confusion, but that clarity never came. Instead, silence fell. It was suffocating. All I could hear was the rapid thudding of my heart and the dreaded flicker of hope dying inside me. Then it happened. A shout shattered the stillness, sharp like glass breaking. It echoed through the air, slicing through the tension, sending shockwaves reverberating off the walls around us. The figure lunged. Was it a threat? A betrayal? Tom's face twisted in horror, and I felt my breath hitch. This wasn't just an argument. It was the beginning of something terrifying. I blinked, reality blending with chaos. My hands were slick with sweat, my throat dry. I searched for answers, for Tom's eyes, but he was lost, drowning in a confrontation that spiraled out of control. My mind raced, grappling with fear, love, and the sickening thought that I could lose him. What if this was the last moment we would share? My body felt like it was on fire, the energy palpable, swirling around us like an impending storm ready to unleash its fury. In that moment, I realized the truth. Everything was about to change. I was on the edge of a precipice, staring down into the unknown. What would happen next? Would I be able to save Tom? Or would I bear witness to a tragedy that would haunt me forever? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air crackled with fear, swirling around us like a tempest. I stood frozen, my thoughts spiraling wildly as the scene before me unfolded. Tom's eyes filled with a desperate love, and a flicker of hope met mine for a fleeting moment. It crystallized time briefly, but then he turned back to face that dark figure, a human shield against an encroaching nightmare. Step back. The voice cut through the crowd like a knife, a harsh command that sent murmurs of panic rippling through us. My instincts kicked in, propelling me forward despite the protests of my own legs. Unwilling to let him slip away from reach. As I surged through the writhing masses, I caught fragments of faces, each one twisted with fear and confusion. Lucy was somewhere in the crowd, her terrified eyes searching, hoping, and failing to grasp the situation. My heart ached at the thought of her helplessness, knowing I was about to walk into a maelstrom. Suddenly, someone caught my arm, yanking me back. It was Andrew, a friend of Tom's from his past, and his face was like a mask, taut with urgency. "Don't go in there," he shouted, his voice nearly drowned out by the chaos. "You'll only make it worse. I can't just stand here." I spat back, panic igniting my every nerve. I could see the fear gripping Tom's features as he faced whatever fate awaited him. "He needs me." With a swift movement, Andrew let go, but not before his wide eyes implored me to think. In that fleeting moment, I looked back at the figure cloaked in shadow, masked by a dark aura of malice that seemed to grow with each heartbeat. Was it truly a stranger, or something more familiar? Each pulse of the crowd resonated with uncertainty, each gasp a reminder of the precariousness of the moment. Tom's voice broke through my own thoughts. "Please, just let him go." His words were charged, pleading. I could see him trying to reason with the embodiment of chaos before him, putting himself in the line of fire, a sacrifice I wasn't prepared to accept. "Tom!" I screamed, lunging forward. I threaded through bodies, like water through rocks, desperate to reach him. My heart thundered in my chest, louder than the chaos, louder than life itself. The closer I got, the more I could feel the fear radiate from those lines of people that encircled us. Then, with a terrifying crack, something shattered between them, an object flung through the air, catching the light in a glinting arc before crashing at their feet. The figure was entangled in a swirl of movement, and for the briefest second, I saw a flash of empty rage in his eyes. He stepped closer to Tom, the darkness within him palpable, feeding off the frenzy like a bloodthirsty beast. It was a moment etched into me, a heartbeat of eternity suspended, as I watched the shadows claw their way into reality. My legs moved on instinct, and as I collided with the wall of bodies, an unexpected voice broke through the frenzy. "Stop!" A woman's firm shout cut the tension, surprising everyone into momentary silence. I turned to find her, a stranger with fierce determination shining in her eyes. "Enough. This doesn't have to go any further. There's a way out of this. Listen to him." Hope flickered, a small ember amidst the storm of fear. The figure hesitated, those moments of indecision mingling with the tones of her voice, as if he was wrestling with some internal demon. And in that barest breath of time, I caught Tom's gaze again. There was a spark of recognition, perhaps even a trace of hope reflected back at me. But before anything could unfold, the figure surged forward, aggression renewed. The moment shattered, cutting through the air like a blade. "You have no idea what you're getting into." His voice bellowed, echoing against the despairing faces. He lunged toward Tom with an urgency that paralyzed me. I screamed, a raw, primal sound, reaching for him as if the air itself could bridge the gap between us. Then blackness. The world descended into chaos as a shrill siren blared, a far-off whimper of authority cutting through the noise. It was an announcement of salvation, but also dread a promise that everything would be answered, yet I knew deep inside that answers often came at a cost. As I lay there on the ground, crouching beneath a swirl of limbs and looming shadows, the last thing I saw was Tom, his eyes pleading. Suddenly, without warning, the figure turned. The crowd gasped collectively, and then all fell silent. What was he hiding beneath that veil of obscurity? How tightly did the threads of fate weave together, keeping secrets wrapped in the night? The air grew thick, charged with a new sense of dread and trepidation, as I clung to a thread of consciousness. Would this storm claim us all? I struggled to comprehend the chaos swirling around me, my heart racing as tendrils of fear intertwined with fight or flight. The sirens screamed louder, drawing nearer, and yet the scene seemed to stretch, to elongate into something surreal. I blinked, and for one hopeless moment, I caught a glimpse of Tom amidst the turmoil, his hands clenched, every sinew in his body tense, braced against whatever fate loomed before him. Then the world snapped back into focus, rushing in with brutal clarity. People were jostling, trying to escape, but I was anchored by that fierce love I felt for Tom, the kind that roared louder than the chaos. I scrambled to my knees, my palms scraping against the pavement, and willed my legs to push me forward. Just as the figure moved to attack, an unexpected warmth brushed against Miss Sumion's hand, firm and assuring on my shoulder. I looked up to see the determined woman who had shouted earlier, her eyes ablaze with purpose. "Get up! We can't let him face this alone," she urged, her voice a beacon illuminating the cracks of despair around us. "You're stronger than you think. Don't let fear win." Her presence ignited something deep inside me, a flicker of strength that I thought had abandoned me. I rose, propelled by her conviction, just as Tom shouted my name once more, a cry that cut through the mingled sounds of confusion. "Trust me," I shouted back, fueled by adrenaline. I pushed toward him, the thrumming rhythm of my heart synchronizing with the urgency that permeated the air. It felt like diving into the depths of a raging sea, not knowing if I would resurface or simply drown in the depths of despair. The figure turned again, and I caught a glimpse of his eyes, wild, frantic, driven by something dark and twisted. "You think you can save him? You have no idea what I'm capable of," he shouted, the threat lingering unspoken in the stillness that followed. It was as if time bent, allowing me to witness the raw, vulnerable side of Tom. Beneath the bravado, there was fear. It washed over him like a wave, and for the first time, I saw the cracks forming in his composed exterior. "Please, just walk away," he pleaded, desperation clawing at his throat. "Don't do this." The woman and I pushed through the last of the bodies blocking our way, and my heart pounded louder than the sirens, punctuated by the raw despair in the air. But then a sudden roar erupted from the figure, breaking my concentration. He hurled something, a brick, maybe toward the woman, who seemed prepared to deflect it. In that split second, I stumbled, my foot catching on something below, my world tilting as I fell forward. But just as my body collided with the ground, I felt her grab my arm, pulling me back. "Stay with me," she urged, the resolve in her voice lending me strength even as fear threatened to consume me. Tom's voice reverberated in my mind as he shouted, "Get back!" "No!" I could feel the pull of the moment, the gravity of choices that unfolded rapidly around us. Then impact. The air was siphoned from my lungs as it hit me. The figure had lunged for Tom, but not before I heard Ithis' laughter, chilling and derisive. "This is what you wanted, isn't it?" He spat, dark amusement coloring his words. To watch him suffer, to watch him fail, time felt infinitesimal. My heartbeat echoed like thunder in the silence. I stared into Tom's eyes as desperation morphed into a grim determination to protect. But what could he protect if the environment twisted so cruelly against him? At that moment, I seized the tiny embers of courage within me, fueled by the woman beside me, and what little possibility remained. I called out, "Let him go. You don't have to do this. You're better than this." For a flickering instant, his eyes wavered, the shadows within him sensing the kindness offered. But just as hope sprang to life, the figure's face twisted back into rage. It was a seething kind of fury, a darkness that threatened to drown us all. Then he spoke, words slithering out with venom. "You think she cares? You think anyone cares? You're just as lost as I am, and he'll prove it." With that, a crack in the suffocating tension exploded. He lunged at Tom, and the world shattered. I made a choice then, a choice that shifted something deep inside. "No!" I screamed, darting forward, propelled by a raw primal instinct, a protective anger hotter than any fear. But right as I reached them, everything shifted into a vortex of tumultuous spin that left me gasping in shock. Before I could process it, the woman by my side was thrown backward as a force rippled through the air, a fracture in reality itself, and I was left staring, paralyzed by the horror unfurling before me. In that chaos, with the sirens wailed nearer, a piece of information landed heavily in my heart. I had not only witnessed an agonizing transformation, but perhaps opened doors to truths that lay far beyond what I knew. Tom was fighting not just for himself but for something larger, something interconnected that threatened to unravel us all. The ground trembled beneath us, whispering of fate's cruel twist, and I realized that in trying to save Tom, I may have ignited the very storm that would consume us all, our choices now rippling through the fragile fabric of what it meant to love and lose. But as the air crackled with what was to come, I felt a haunting question resonate within the chaos. Was our battle over the choice of love, or was it deeper, a struggle against something darker that crept just out of sight, looming over us like the specter of despair? And as darkness closed in, leaving only the sirens and a chilling echo of Tom's name on the air, I fought to find the courage to face what lay ahead, knowing I wasn't sure if I would ever truly be prepared for the truth of my heart. The world around me felt like it was collapsing in slow motion, each fragment of chaos stretching into eternity. My heart pounded painfully against my ribcage as the smell of fear hung thick in the air, mingled with the acrid scent of smoke wafting from the shadows of the city. I was barely aware of the woman beside me, her grip on my arm steadying my trembling limbs. Tom's face, twisted in desperation, was imprinted in my mind, compelling me to act no matter how crushing the weight of fear had become. An eerie quiet fell over the scene, contrasting sharply with the chaos just moments before. I watched as the figure loomed over Tom, his expression transforming into a mask of contempt. "You think you have what it takes to save him? You're just a spectator watching a tragedy unfold," he sneered, and in that moment, the air crackled with the palpable energy of dread. "Stop it!" I screamed, my voice cracking under the strain of my emotions. "You don't have to do this. You are not invincible." My words seemed to hang in the air, a fragile thread weaving through the tapestry of fear and hope. Tom staggered slightly, a testament to the toll this confrontation was taking. "Marina," he called, his voice laced with urgency and vulnerability. It shattered my heart, his pain reverberating deep within me, drowning out the chaos as I stared at him. The connection we shared was a tether, and with every breath, it pulled me closer to him even as fear threatened to tear us apart. The woman beside me shifted, her presence shifting from a stalwart pillar to a beacon of quiet strength. "Marina," she murmured, "listen. We can't let him suffocate beneath this weight. We need to find a way to break the spell of despair." Something bright glimmered in her eyes, and for a fleeting moment, I felt a sense of purpose returning. In that heartbeat of time, I felt my resolve bolster. I had spent so long trapped beneath layers of my own fears, allowing darkness to wrap around me like a cocoon. But now there was something more pressing at stake. I shook off the suffocating grip of self-doubt. "You're right," I said, finding strength in those words. Step by shaky step, I moved forward, determined. "You're strong, Tom. Stronger than you know. You can make it through this." I whispered it more to myself than him, but somehow, it felt like the truth itself was resonating in the air. Can a single word truly change the tide? I had to believe it could. The figure's laughter echoed again, a haunting sound that stretched the tension tighter. "Strength?" he scoffed. "She's just feeding you lies, Tom. You're weak. You always were." Tom flinched, their words striking close to home. I could see the conflict playing across his face, the echo of years of pain surfacing alongside anger to confront the diluted reflection he had been fed. It was a moment that could have sent him further down the spiraling path, But in his eyes, I noticed a flicker of resistance, a small flame igniting against the onslaught of shadows. "Shut up!" he shouted suddenly, his voice firming, the edges of his fear softening. A spark of defiance ignited within him, and as he squared his shoulders, the air seemed to shift. "You don't get to decide who I am." In the torrent of emotions, hope surged like a tidal wave, filling the void of fear. I stepped forward again, sensing this was a pivotal moment. "You're not alone, Tom. Not now." My heart soared with every word, a quiet chant of unity bringing the pieces of our fragmented world slightly into alignment. The figure hesitated, confusion flickering across his face, just as unexpected kindness seeped through the cracks in the dark facade he had built around himself. "What do you know about my struggles?" he raged, eyes wide but wavering. "Maybe more than you think." I felt lost too. But we have the power to choose to rise from this. Don't let the dark define who you are. My words caught the wind, spiraling around, planting seeds of doubt in his certainty. I glanced at the woman beside me, drawing strength from her presence. Her eyes were filled with an understanding I hadn't noticed before, a shared acknowledgement of the battle we were fighting, not just for Tom, but against the inner demons that haunted us all. But in that moment of unexpected connection, a thread woven through our collective humanity, the darkness coiled tighter, sensing its hold slipping. Jerked back by raw instinct, the figure turned to me, his eyes cold and unwavering. "You don't know what you're asking. This is about survival. If you choose to save him, there will be consequences for us all." The weight of his words hung between us, a looming threat that felt darker than the shadows closing in. "What consequences?" I whispered, dread sinking its claws into my heart. But just as the storm threatened to break, a sudden explosion of light cast shadows away, for a moment a blinding flash illuminating the truth of the fraying thread binding our lives together. While between us all lay the blank page of potential, all it took was for one to turn the page and reconfigure reality itself. And then, as the echoes of hope clawed their way through uncertainty, the ground trembled beneath us again, louder this time, shaking the very foundation of our struggle. "No!" I shouted, trying to fight against the dark tide gathering around us, but it surged forward with an unnatural force. In the ensuing chaos, the figure's laughter morphed into an anguished howl, and I realized with dawning horror that beneath the veiled threats lay a deeper truth, the revelation that could shatter everything we thought we knew about ourselves and each other. With my heart racing, I clung to the light that flickered in the distance, uncertain if it would guide me towards solace or plunge us into the deeper shadows of despair. And as the wall between us and the darkness trembled, I felt that if there was to be salvation, it would demand more than just courage. It would require us to grapple with the truths we had tried so hard to ignore. But had we pushed too hard? Had I delved too deeply into the heart of the matter? The thought clawed at my conscience as the light dimmed, leaving us mired in the tangled web of fate, teetering on the brink of an unknown precipice. We could all be lost, shrouded in the very darkness we had hoped to escape. The ground continued to shift beneath our feet as the chaos surged like a living beast, roiling and writhing. I matched Tom's gaze, my heart thundering in my chest, and for the briefest moment, our fear intertwined, offering solace in shared dread. It became painfully clear that our struggles, while separate, were bound by threads of anxiety and shadows threatening to consume us whole. Then, from the periphery, another roar rang out, this one sharper, more focused, a cry of anguish that dragged me from my inward spiral of thoughts. Just beyond the chaos, I caught the gaze of a girl, no older than 10, her face streaked with dirt and tears. She reached for a woman who stood frozen in place, lost in the tumult, and my heart broke for them both. The horror they felt mirrored my own. "Mom!" The girl screamed, her voice high and cracking. Desperation hung in the air like a fog. It pierced through the deafening noise, a raw and unfiltered plea that sent my heartbeat into a turbulent race. This helplessness, this was what fear manifested into reality, and it ignited something inside me. Marina. Tom's voice held a newfound urgency. He pulled me back into the present. We can't let them drown in this. We have to help them. Help them? I echoed, bewildered. How can we help when we're hanging on by a thread ourselves? But the girl's cries wrapped around me like a vine, squeezing until I felt the pressure of the world push against my chest. I turned, seeking the strength I prayed would be found in that moment of urgency. We have to try. I found myself saying, the determination sharpening my senses even as fear threatened to shred it away. In a heartbeat, Tom's resolve solidified, and he nodded. I caught a glimpse of the fire in his eyes, the spark of defiance I'd seen moments before shining brighter than it had ever been. Fueled by our shared mission, we maneuvered through the chaos, inching closer toward the girl, who stood like a lighthouse amid stormy seas. As we neared her, another explosion rattled the ground, sending dust spiraling around us. I shielded my eyes against the abrasive grains, and in that brief moment of blindness, a thought surfaced, a realization that the very danger we grappled with was not solely external. We were battling our own fears and doubts that breathed life into the shadowy figure who sought to engulf us. Stay close, I urged Tom, reaching for the girl, watching as her small hand trembled. I grasped it tightly, anchoring her to me in this whirlwind of uncertainty. We're not going to let go. What's your name? I asked her, my voice firm yet soothing, a gentle lifebuoy in the roiling sea of emotions surrounding us. Lucy, she whispered, her voice trembling barely louder than a rustle of leaves. In that moment, I saw beyond her fear a flicker of trust kindling in her eyes. And Marina, and this is Tom. We're going to get you to your mom, I promised, not knowing if I could keep that promise, but feeling the weight of hope coalesce between us. Around us, the figure snarled, his voice dripping with malice, you think you can save them? You're all fools. Chaos is the only truth. Each word struck harder than any physical blow, but I stood firm. No! Chaos isn't our only truth. Love is, the connection we share. This is our strength. My shout seemed swallowed by the shifting around us, but it resonated somewhere deep within, sparking embers of defiance. Let's go! Tom called, pulling Lucy closer as we pressed onward. Together, we cut through the dust clouding our vision, moving toward the woman who stood transfixed, her eyes wide and lost. Mom! Lucy shouted again, the ferocity in her voice surpassing the noise surrounding us. It was a sound of pure love, tinged with desperation. It reached the woman, a tether snapping her from her frozen state. Recognition flared in her eyes, and she sprinted forward, arms extending toward her daughter, igniting a fierce joy that pierced through the chaos, a beacon of hope in the shattered landscape around us. Our hearts leaped in unison, but not without knowing the darkness loomed ever closer, hungry for the bonds we begun to forge. The jagged edges of fear still threatened to sever what we had just rekindled. Just then, a deafening roar erupted. The force tore through the street, sending shockwaves across the ground that knocked us off balance. In the blinding echo, I felt a sudden pull, an unknowable force wrenching apart the fabric of our hope. Bodies collided, a frantic scene of chaos unfolding as people stumbled, fear threatening to eclipse us all. I caught Lucy as she teetered dangerously, but as I locked my gaze onto Tom, the world around us spiraled. The clarity I had felt just moments before began to waver, replaced by an overarching sense of doom. Somewhere in the heart of all this shifting chaos, I felt the shadow figure's power swell, ready to strike once more. And just as I thought we had found a moment of reprieve beneath the weight of shared purpose, the world darkened, a new storm brewing in the distance. With an unsettling twist in my stomach, I turned back to face the oncoming chaos. Something told me this would not be the last challenge we would face. The truth behind this confrontation still loomed overhead, an inescapable cloud thickening with every beat of the heart. Had we truly reached beyond the veil of despair? Or were we merely deluding ourselves, teetering closer to the brink of an ever-widening abyss? As a low rumble of thunder rolled overhead, signaling the storm's tumultuous return, I couldn't shake the feeling that the path ahead had been irrevocably altered, and our journey had only just begun. The air crackled with tension, the ground beneath us still trembling from the aftermath of the explosion that consumed a fragment of our reality. The chaos pulsed like an angry heartbeat, each thrum igniting fresh fear. I clung to Luce's trembling hand, the small anchor in a sea of turmoil, as Tom and I exchanged glances filled with silent determination mixed with unspoken fears. "Marina, look!" Tom suddenly pointed, his eyes widening. I followed his gaze, my heart dropping as I saw a group of strangers forming in the distance, their faces obscured by dirt and despair. There was something unerringly familiar about their movements, a haunting spectral dance that filled the air with a sense of impending doom. We edged closer, the ground shaking with a renewed intensity. Sharp whispers flitted by, echoes of lost dreams and fragmented memories. I pressed my fingers against my temples, willing the voices to recede, to let us push through the swirling miasma that had become our world. But the whispers only grew louder, feeding off our anxiety. "This isn't just chaos, it's a reckoning," they seemed to chant, some from the shadows, others from the fringes of my memory. Each syllable dripped with an icy conviction, and I fought to shake off their weight. "Stay focused," I urged Tom, grabbing Luce's hand tighter. "We can't get lost in this." "We need to get to a safe place," he replied, his voice strained. But a glance back at the faceless horde roiling closer left me vacillating between dread and resolve. I refused to let fear root us in place, especially when Lucy's small form offered an undeniable light in the deepening darkness. We pressed forward, weaving through the crowd. With each step, Lucy became more animated, her small voice shouting for her mother, each note piercing the air with urgency even as my heart ached for her innocence amid such despair. A figure caught my eye amidst the chaos. A woman appeared, hands stretched toward us. I felt a stark recognition wash over me, for she bore the marks of a mother unwilling to let go. The same desperation in her gaze mirrored the unfathomable fear I had felt for my own family, memories fraying like old string. "Lucy!" she cried, her body swaying like a sapling in the wind. In that instant, something in me shifted. It was as though the universe momentarily aligned. Three souls held together by an invisible bond swept away in the storm of desperation. But just as we reached out, the shadows moaned like hungry wolves, and a darkness surged through the trembling ground. A figure I hadn't noticed before rose from the depths, cloaked in chaos. It seethed with jagged edges that painted the air with dread. My breath caught in my throat as I faced the manifestation of our fears personified. "Let them go," I shouted, my voice raw. I felt Tom's grip on Lucy tighten, a united front against this cruel reality. "You can't take them," the figure laughed, a malicious sound that clawed at my heart. "Fools! Love and hope are but fires that burn only in your minds. Chaos is the only promise I offer." Panic spilled into my thoughts. Could he be right? Were we merely guests at a banquet of despair, our hopeful gestures mere apprentices in a cruel master's game? "No!" I screamed back, suddenly lifted by the fierceness of my resolve. "We will not accept that truth any longer." Tom's voice rang out beside mine. "Love, community, it brings us together against the dark." The shadows recoiled slightly, an almost surprised flutter, and in that fleeting moment of hesitation, I felt the faintest flicker of hope ignite within us. "We can change this," I shouted, sensing the connection we had forged amplifying our collective strength. But just as the darkness appeared to waver, a rift opened in the ground beneath us, a chasm filled with bright, swirling lights that seemed to echo the fragments of our emotions. A choice loomed, whispering like a siren. In one breath, I could leap into the unknown, yet there was a flicker of warmth radiating from Tom and Lucy that warmed my scream of despair. Not without each other, Tom shouted, pulling Lucy closer. We won't abandon anybody. In the crescendo of uncertainty and promise, the woman's hand fell into Lucy's, and just as her small fingers entwined, the ground trembled with greater intensity. The figure's laughter escalated into a twisted symphony of despair, enveloping us in a cacophony that threatened to drown out our strength. As I stood paralyzed amid the chaos, desperately trying to hold on to the fabric of hope woven through the loving strands of Lucy and her mother, the ground beneath me cracked open, opening into the unknown. In that seismic moment, something pivotal shifted, unveiling a secret I had never anticipated. Through the chasm's turmoil, a revelation burst for the disconcerting truth that elevated the dread I had long tried to stifle. There were forces at play far more complex than we could ever fathom. The choices we made here, now, would ripple through more than just our lives, but the very fabric of the chaos enveloping us. Screams tore through the air. I caught a look at Tom, a tumultuous storm mirrored in his eyes. We could stand together defiant, or we could shatter apart, lost in the abyss. I took a step forward, feeling the warmth of Lucy's hand anchored in mine, the silken thread binding us together, as we braced ourselves against the chilling winds of the unknown. But as I gazed into Tom's eyes, a real fear suddenly twisted my stomach. What if this time I wasn't strong enough to lead us through? The shadows closed in, and I felt their nearness, like an embrace that could ensnare me. It was a choice I could not afford to hesitate upon, but as I prepared to leap into the void, the weight of my decision bore heavy upon my heart. The world seemed to shatter around me, and as I stepped forward, I was gripped with the unsettling thought: what if the abyss that awaited us contained darker truths than I dared to imagine? The ground quaked beneath us, as though the world was shedding its skin, a fierce reminder that we were still very much alive despite the chaos swirling around us. Seeing the abyss yawn wider sent a tremor of panic coursing through me, but just as quickly, there was a grounding warmth in the clasp of Lucy's small hand. She looked up at me, her wide eyes filled with innocence and unwavering belief, and in that moment, I felt a flicker of unyielding courage spark within me. "Marina, remember what you said about fighting for the light?" Tom's voice pierced through my turmoil, wrapping around me like a lifeline. "We can't let that darkness take us. We need to keep moving." His resolve radiated strength, and I felt my heart steadying. "You're right," I replied, forcing words past the lump in my throat as I looked down at Lucy again. "Whatever happens, we stick together. No matter how deep the darkness, love is what will carry us through." But just as those words left my lips, the malevolent figure inched closer, shadows swirling like dark serpents around its form, each movement deliberate and taunting. "Love?" it sneered, voice slick with disdain. "What has love ever done but bring you heartache and despair? Look around you." I tore my gaze from the writhing shadows, and focused instead on the faceless horde creeping ever closer. Each twisted face echoed pain like shards of glass caught in the fading light, blurring the line between the lost and the forgotten. I glanced back to Tom, and saw the fire kindled in his eyes, our spirit refusing to bow down. "Close your eyes, Lucy," I instructed, though my own heart was pounding in fear. "We are going to leap together. Hold tight. Don't let go of my hand." She nodded, leaning closer as a shiver coursed through her tiny frame. We took a collective breath, the air thick with apprehension and hope. "On three," Tom said, his grip on Lucy firm. 1, 2, 3. Together, we darted toward the opening, hearts racing as we braved the chasm bridging of fears and hopes, the unknown looming just beneath our feet. As we leaped, a strange sensation enveloped us. The ground erupted in bright lights that swirled around us like fireflies trapped in a tempest. The rush of wind whipped through my hair, and for a fleeting moment, it felt like we could defy gravity itself. Flashes of memories cascaded around us, laughter, tears, the warmth of hands held tight. Our love hummed like an ancient song, resonating in harmony even in the face of despair. But just as swiftly as it began, the vibrant world faded, darkness creeping back in to swallow us whole. We landed hard, unable to brace ourselves for the impact, and the air trembled with our landing. I gasped, choking on the heavy silence that followed. Dazed, I looked around to find ourselves in a different realm entirely, a place shrouded in fog and dimly lit by a pale glow. Wisps of a forgotten past danced about us, echoes of lives once lived whispered in melancholic tones. "Where are we?" Lucy's voice quivered, and I could feel her instincts pulling me away from the burgeoning uncertainty. "I don't know," I admitted, glancing at Tom, but his expression had shifted. The light that once danced in his eyes began to waver with uncertainty, shadowed by something I couldn't comprehend. "Look." He pointed toward a flickering light in the distance, the only aspect of promise in this unsettling realm. I nodded, uncertainty pooling in my stomach, as we moved cautiously toward it, the glow casting long shadows that danced in eerie mockery of our panic. As we approached, our surroundings began to shift, a parade of fragmented memories began to swirl around us, scenes that were both familiar and foreign. I caught glimpses of laughter from our pasta birthday party, a long-forgotten summer, moments I thought were lost forever. But intertwined with those warm memories were darker images of family torn apart, faces filled with desperation that felt chillingly close to home. "Marina," Tom whispered suddenly, his voice quivering with urgency. This is your past, isn't it?" These memories, a sinking feeling enveloped me as I stepped into the light's embrace, and faced what loomed ahead. My own choices reflected back at me. "I didn't want any of this," I rasped, but the light held no judgment, only eerie clarity. Realization crashed over me. The memories were unearthing secrets I had buried deep, fears ensnared by guilt and longing. I thought maybe if I pushed them away, they wouldn't hurt as much. But as the words hung heavy in the air, I understood the truth: we can't outrun our past. We can only face it together. But just as I began to understand, a chilling cry echoed through the air, a heart-wrenching sound of loss that clawed at my chest. "Lucy!" It was a voice I recognized, filled with anguish and despair, weaving a thread of fear that tethered me to reality. "It can't be," Tom said, his eyes widening. "Marina, we need to." The glimmering light flickered violently, the facade of hope rippling before us. Then the shadows coalesced around the luminous sphere, swallowing every shred of warmth and optimism until only darkness remained. "Run!" I shouted, instinct taking over, and we dashed back toward the safety of the threshold from which we came, my heart pounding with the helplessness of what was happening. But the shadows surged, grabbing at us with insidious tendrils, causing Lucy to stumble and grasp for me in panic. "Not again!" I screamed, battling against the grasping darkness. Before we could reach her, that chilling voice shattered the silence anew. "You thought you could escape your fate? They are mine now." Time froze as I turned, icy dread pooling in my veins. It all made sense now: love, the sacrifices, the darkness that had always lingered at the corners of my thoughts, ready to reclaim those whom I held dear. "Stand firm." Tom's voice cut through the chaos, but as I clutched Lucy and braced myself for the encroaching dark, I felt the weight of memories pressing around us. Perhaps the darkness was right. Perhaps love was just a fleeting flicker against the storms of fate. And as the shadows stretched ever closer, a terrifying truth dawned upon me. Could I bear to lose Lucy? Would I really have the strength to face another night without her warmth? The crack of destiny loomed before us, and with every fiber of my being, I understood I would have to make a choice, a heart-wrenching decision that would bind us all to the very chaos I had fought against. But just as I braced for the shattering storm, a flicker of defiance ignited in my heart. "We will not let you win," I screamed, my voice ringing through the darkness like a beacon. And in that breath of defiance, I felt something stirring, an unexpected kindness, an otherworldly light that threatened to pierce through the shadows, and I knew we still had a chance. We were still standing on the precipice of everything. But as the darkness surged around us, I realized that the time had come to face the truth, no matter how heartbreaking it might be. I would not let this chaos consume us without a fight. But as I prepared to unleash that final surge of hope, a horrifying revelation broke through. Our memories had woven strands of fate far beyond our reach, and what I thought I understood was merely the beginning of something far more intricate. And as the darkness greeted us with sinister whispers, I could only hope that in this final confrontation, I would find the strength to hold on to the ones I loved before the abyss swallowed them whole. The air thickened with dread, each breath becoming a weight as we stood defiantly against the encroaching shadows. The chilling voice echoed, smoothing over the tumultuous emotions swirling within me. You thought love could shield you? It taunted, the darkness wrapping itself tighter around us, suffocating our resolve. For a moment, time seemed to suspend itself, an exhale caught on the precipice of despair. I glanced at Tom, his face a mixture of determination and fear. In the flickering shadows, I saw the reflection of my own doubts mirrored in his eyes. I swallowed hard, steeling myself against what I knew would come next. Marina Luce's voice quavered, small and frightened, her small hand trembling against mine. I'm scared. Her words pierced through the turmoil like shards of glass, and the weight of her worry anchored me. We had come so far, navigated through darkness, and yet here we were, faced with a nightmare that felt insurmountable. I brought her closer, wrapping an arm around her shoulders, loath to let the shadows take her too. You're safe with me, Lucy, I whispered, my heart racing as my mind fought through layers of fear. We will find the light again. I promise. But the shadows writhed, pulsating with dark energy, and as they closed in, a new voice joined the Carusa hollow, an echoing laughter that filled the air and reverberated in our bones. What a touching scene! A mother's love, how quaint! But love can only blind you from what's truly at stake. With a flick of its wrist, the swirling darkness accelerated toward us, the air charged with a malevolence I could almost taste. You forget, dear Marina, this realm thrives on choice son sacrifice. Are you prepared to let someone go? Someone you love. The words hung heavily in the air, like frozen stars in an endless void. I felt a chill seep into my bones, a reminder of my own past, my own reckless choices, the sacrifices I had made, and the pain that had never truly healed. The darkness prided itself on revealing our deepest fears, and here, laid bare before us, was the ultimate test of love's fortitude. No! Tom shouted suddenly, stepping protectively in front of us. We're not afraid of you. You can't control us with your lies. Fire flickered within him, but I could sense it dwindling under the pressing shadows, and I knew this spectacle was feeding upon our fear. But desperation ignited a spark within me, an instinctual need to push back against the tide of despair. We know love is powerful. It won't let us down, I shouted, my voice trembling but fierce. We've faced worse. We're stronger together. At my words, the shadows paused momentarily, revealing cracks of light between its tendrils. The brief illumination flickered like tempting stars in the night sky, and I grasped onto the hope it offered. From the depths of my heart, memories surged within me, moments of laughter shared with Lucy, Tom's unwavering support, the promise of a life built together, each memory illuminating the path before me like a glinting thread leading us forth into the unknown. Disease be damned. I was done running. Hold on, I shouted, keeping my grip tight on Lucy as I stepped forward. We will not let ourselves be divided. The love we share is greater than any darkness. As my voice echoed through the void, I could feel the tide began to shift. The shadows hissed, recoiling slightly, as though stung by the truth of my proclamation. Renewed determination surged in my veins. I summoned every ounce of strength, channeling love's tenacity into our next move, our next heartbeat. Marina, Tom urged, but I sensed he was beginning to feel the encouragement of our collective memory too. The glow radiating around us melded into a protective aura, a barrier forged from hope. The darkness shrieked, lashing out, and as it collided with our collective spirit, an explosion of light erupted, pushing back against the shadows that had so long sought to extinguish us. But just as we gathered that momentous tide of light, a frigid pulse reverberated through the air. An anguished cry sliced through the chaotic brilliancy, a wail that wrapped itself around my heart, icy and disarming. Marina! Something deeper within me stirred a truth shrouded in dread, like a familiar ghost. Lucy! I gasped, my heart plummeting at the thought of yet another loss. I spun around to see her standing at the edge of the glowing light, entranced and shadowed by a figurious silhouette extending tendrils of darkness around her. The pure terror clawed at my throat as I lunged forward. Lucy, run! Get back! But she stood frozen, eyes wide, caught in a trance between two worlds, the encroaching darkness attempting to weave its tendrils around her. I felt a part of my soul tear at the sight, representative of every fear I ever harbored. Tom moved just behind me, pushing forward as we fought against the wave of shadows that surged towards us. "We can't lose her," he shouted, pulling at my shoulder. "We have to go now." "No!" I cried out in desperation. "Lucy, you have to wake up. Come back to me." With a force that defied the heaviness surrounding us, the light intensified its warmth, wrapping around us, urging us forward even as despair tried to pull us back. Somewhere deep inside, I felt the surge of love emanating not just from me, but from all of us, from everyone we loved, bound tightly together in this dreadful dance with fate. But as my heart thudded against the barriers of darkness, the threat of losing Lucy morphed into something even more menacing. "You see, dear Marina," the voice rasped again from the shadows, mocking and cold. "You may fight all you wish, but the truth is, the shadows have chosen their prize." And with that final proclamation, the darkness swirled around Lucy, casting a long, lethal shadow over her bright innocence. Time seemed to freeze as I realized the stakes my heart had known all along, the haunting truth I had hidden from myself. "Now, make your choice," it whispered, a bitter taste of finality seeping through as the shadows tightened their grip around us both, caught between the luminous glow of love and the looming specter of despair. I faced the unspeakable choice that lay ahead and knew that our next move could either bind us together in unity or tear us apart forever. Deep in the depths of my heart, I realized the shadows had prepared a gift, a revelation that held the power to change everything about our shared fate and perhaps even hand us the key to breaking free. The shadows undulated, reaching for Lucy like a dark tide intent on consuming her light, and I struggled against the bonds of fear that threatened to imprison me. Every instinct screamed for me to move, to rescue her, but even as I fought against the constricting grip of dread, I felt the weight of uncertainty bearing down on my shoulders like a mountain. "Marina." Tom's voice broke through my fog. "We have to think. What can we do?" His eyes flickered with desperation, and for a split second, I saw the flicker of hope that had ignited within him, mirroring the light we had created together. "Lucy," I shouted again, my voice trembling as I reached out to her, as if mere words could bridge the growing chasm between us. "Fight it. Remember our dance in the kitchen, the way you giggled when I spun you around." Her expression shifted slightly, a hint of recognition fleeting across her features, but the shadows continued to weave themselves tighter, like a poisonous vine entwining a beautiful rose. "Stop!" I commanded, my voice layered with defiance even as doubt began to seep through the cracks of my resolve. "You don't control her. Lucy, listen to my voice." But just as I thought I might break through, the shadows retaliated with a swell of force, pushing me back. My heart thudded violently as I recoiled, fighting against the invisible chains that sought to anchor me in despair. "Your love is strong, yet love must always be tempered with sacrifice." The malevolent presence purred, and I felt the chill of its intentions ebb around me, trying to find purchase in my heart. Tom cried out, as if sensing the shift in momentum. "We won't succumb to your games. We love her too much." In that instant, I understood that feeling of love was not merely a weapon against the darkness, but a shield that empowered us. It was our combined memories, our shared laughter, the sweet echoes of hope that surged forward. I remembered the way Lucy looked up at us with admiration, her unyielding faith in love and connection in family. I remembered the untangling of my own heart the first time I held her close, feeling the fragile trust she placed in me. It was sacred. "Let go, Lucy," I urged again, my voice gaining strength. "You are not alone. Remember your dreams, your passions. Remember who you are. You are our light, the glue that holds us together." The black tendrils hesitated just long enough for the warmth of our connection to seep through. With it came a rush of comforting memories, the promise of tomorrow, the joy of shared moments, even the lessons from our struggles. In that swirl of emotions, I felt a beautiful clarity parting the chaos surrounding us, a sliver of truth shimmering amidst the shadows, and then I saw Ida flicker from deep within Lucy, a spark of defiance ignited by my words. Her eyes blinked, fighting against the denseness that ensnared her. "Mama?" she whispered, her voice fragile and uncertain, but it was a lifeline for all of us. "Yes. Yes, darling. It's me. Fight it. Remember how loved you are," I shouted, as the words erupted from me, fueled by every ounce of love that had thrummed through my veins since the moment she was born. The darkness recoiled, the hiss of discontent rising like a wailing cry as Lucy's spirit wrestled against the binding void. "You can't have her," I screamed, feeling the swell of the protective glow expand at the promise of our fight. "We will not let you dictate our reality." The shadows twisted violently, and for every rise of darkness, the light within us surged brighter. Suddenly, Lucy began to move, breaking free from the trance that had confined her. Her face crumpled with effort, yet the spirit I recognized me fierce. Beautiful daughter fought her way back into the world, clawing through the strands of dread. "Keep going, Lucy. We're right here." Tom's voice rang out, an anchor in the storm. His steady presence beside me served as a powerful reminder that we would not face this together alone. In a moment filled with both dread and hope, as if balancing on the tightrope of existence, Lucy advanced slowly amidst the chaos. The shadows whipped around her, furious and vengeful, but just behind her, light began to pour forth, illuminating our surroundings with a warmth that belied the chill of fear. But as she took a shaky step toward us, the dark figure materialized from the depths, a serpentine form emerging with a malicious grin that sent chills down my spine. "Do you think you can win this battle? Love is merely a distraction, your downfall." My heart sank as the shadows lunged at Lucy again, determined to reclaim their prize. "No!" I screamed. Desperation surged through me, mixing with the warmth of love, as I felt the desperation knocking at the door of my soul. Then, the shadows revealed their true horror, whispered truths laced with menace. "One of you must surrender entirely, or lose her forever. Which will you choose?" Time hung still, as if the world itself paused to watch the unraveling terror. I glanced desperately at Tom, then at Lucy. A heart-wrenching tension thickened the air around us. In that moment, everything I loved seemed to hang in the balance, on the cusp of something terrible and irrevocable. Each beat of my heart resonated with the chilling reality. To fight for her meant potentially sacrificing a part of myself, and could I bear that? I felt the pull of darkness begin to seep deeper, the edge of surrender tantalizingly close, and the answer to their question unfolded like a cruel riddle in my mind, threatening to eclipse everything we had fought for. The shadows seemed to laugh victoriously as I stood, teetering on the brink of that sorrowful choice, and I knew it would change everything. The shadows loomed around us like a dark tide, threatening to wash over everything we cherished. My heart pounded in my chest, caught in a tempest of fear and love, and at the center of that whirlwind stood Lucy, her small form trembling yet resolute, a beacon caught in the storm of darkness. But as the darkness closed in, something deep inside me ignited a defiance steeled by love, and understanding that ran deeper than the terror of losing her. "No," I whispered, the word drawn from the core of my being, swelling around us like a protective armor. "I refuse to let fear dictate my choices." Lucy caught my eye, and for a moment, everything else faded into the background. I saw her potential, her spirit, the undeniable truth that love could prevail even in the darkest circumstances. I inhaled deeply, grounding myself in every moment we had shared, the laughter, the tears, the quiet moments of joy. My determination crystallized with every heartbeat resonating in the air, each second a reminder of what truly mattered. "Listen to me, Lucy," I said, my voice fierce and unwavering, pulling us all closer together. "You hold incredible strength within you. Remember the stories I told you, the ones where love conquers darkness. You can fight this." The shadows writhed and recoiled at my words, startled by the power of conviction echoing through the mist. Lucy nodded, her wide eyes sparkling with a defiance that mirrored my own. I felt Tom stand resolutely beside me, our combined strength presenting a unified front against the chaos surrounding us. "You want to take her? She's our light, and we won't let you snuff that out," Tom shouted, a fervor surging through him, amplifying our collective resolve. The flicker of hope ignited stronger as we gathered in unison, the memories we cherished illuminating our hearts like a spotlight in a void. There was a moment, brief yet intoxicating, when the shadows faltered, as though transforming at the weight of our love. But the dark figure hissed, cloaked in resentment, shadows recoiling around it like angry serpents. "You think love holds power here? You are fools. Love is fleeting. It unveils your hearts only to tear them apart." I could feel it then, the truth pounding within my chest, a reminder that love, despite all its fragility, was formidable. I refused to accept despair's grasp over us. "You don't understand the depth of what we share," I shouted above the rising swell of darkness. "Love binds us, it makes us stronger. When faced with loss, we become unyielding." The fierce resolve surged inside me once more, binding me to the understanding that while darkness may loom, love could craft a shield bright enough to overcome its odds. "We choose love," I declared. And in that breath, I could feel the very fabric of the narrative shifting, the world tilting back toward the light that beckoned. As I stepped forward, Lucy echoed my conviction, her voice bold and unwavering. "You can't have us. We will fight together." And in that moment, everything morphed. The winds howled a new lament, a song of hope breaking through the cacophony of shadows. The darkness wailed, twisting violently against the turbulence of our united hearts, but it was a fleeting sound, a tremor against the strength we exuded. I pushed forward, reaching for Lucy, hands trembling but resolute as she broke free from the shadow's grasp. In that pulse, I saw every memory of laughter. I felt the embrace of love wrap around us, a shield that glimmered through the vengeful darkness. In an instant, Lucy broke free, bounding toward me. "Mama!" Her voice rang out like chimes on a distant summer breeze, and the shadows shuddered, their energy flickering like a candle caught in the winds of change. With a wild cry, Lucy leapt into my arms, and something within me shifted. It was a new understanding, a fierce acknowledgement of love and sacrifice intertwined. Risks had to be taken, and I realized I would fight not just for her, but alongside her, ready to face whatever darkness lay ahead. I turned to Tom and took his hand, uniting our resolve. "We're more than the sum of our fears," I said, feeling a new light surge through my veins. "Together, we are unstoppable." As if answering my call, light burst forth from our joined hands, engulfing us in a warm embrace. The shadows shrieked as the brilliance expanded, pushing back against the cries of despair, flooding the darkness with iridescence. I felt Lucy's heartbeat sync with mine, the rhythm of our souls aligning amidst the chaos, resonating with a hope neither of us could deny. Then came an explosion of warmth, cascading around us like a wave of pure love. The dark figure writhed as the light enveloped it, the colors dazzling yet powerful. The shadows began to recede, retreating into nothingness, unraveling at the seams of our shared connection. "You cannot win this," the dark voice cried, but it was too late. In that moment, we had embraced the undeniable truth that love endures, that it refracts light even in the darkest corners, and it transcends all that wishes to tear it apart. The light grew brighter than I could have ever imagined, engulfing us as we stood together, hand in hand, strengthened, bonded, undeterred by the darkness that had once threatened to consume us. Each heartbeat surged like a drum, echoing with a sweet melody of resilience. With a final, triumphant pulse, the shadows shattered like glass, dissolving into the ether and calling the darkness back to where it belonged, a distant memory. Standing in the afterglow, I felt the warmth envelop us, each thread of our bond woven together like an unbreakable tapestry, a testament to our choice. And as the remnants of fear faded, I turned toward Tom, whose face shone with determination. "You did it," I whispered, tears brimming in my eyes. "We did it. We gave it everything we had." "Yes," he responded, his voice heavy with relief and joy. "We fought for our light, and it will never flicker again." Lucy gazed up at us, her small hands clasped like shields around her heart. "Will we always be together?" she asked, her voice small yet brimming with trust. I knelt before her. My hands cradled her face with tenderness, my heart swelling with love. "Always," I promised, my voice unwavering. "Our love will always be there, even in the darkest nights." As our laughter melted into the air, glimmers of light danced around us like fireflies, small, yet powerful, igniting the path ahead. In that moment, I knew this wasn't merely a victory over darkness, but an awakening to all that we could achieve together, a new beginning, boundless and bright. And as we stepped forward together, hand in hand, I embraced the journey. In the grand tapestry of existence, stitched with warmth, love, and resilience, we can face life head-on. For through every trial would endure, the radiance of love would be our guiding light, an enduring beacon through all. "Together," I whispered, holding on to Tom's hand tightly, "we are infinite." With a final, resonant laugh that sang through the dawn, I realized an inexplicable truth. No shadow could ever truly trump the brilliance of our love. No darkness could ever stifle the wild beauty that emerged from our united hearts. And with that, we stepped through the threshold of new beginnings, ready for whatever lay ahead, because love was enough to carry us through. And so we began, with the echoes of our hearts, weaving together a glorious tapestry that would forever shine brighter than any darkness endured. A promise that even when faced with fate's shadows, we would rise undaunted, united, forever intertwined. In that moment, I knew our story would never truly end, for the light we embraced promised to guide every step we took into the boundless horizon of tomorrow, eternally shimmering in the depths of our hearts.